Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Emperor Big D for all the updates on the channel, a preview of upcoming content, and much more. Welcome to Geekdom Movie Talk, the series where I talk about geeky movies, like I always say, and movies that I'm sure most of you guys are going to probably end up seeing or at least talking about. And on this edition of Geekdom Movie Talk, I wanted to talk a little bit about these Disney live-action remakes. And what I'm referring to specifically is not the Marvel division or the Star Wars division or Pixar. Not that. I'm talking about the fact that Disney, for the past couple of years and now going forward, seems to be remaking their animated classics into live-action movies. And I'm a little befuddled by this, so go figure. But anyways, joining me on this edition of Geekdom Movie Talk, please welcome from the Force Perspective podcast, which you can find on iTunes. I'll put the link down in the description below. Please welcome Sportsguy, otherwise known as Mark.
What's going on, everybody? Great to be here.
All right. Now, tell the folks a little bit about your podcast as briefly as you can.
So Adolfo and I, we mainly talk about current releases, releases that are currently in theaters. We review those movies, but once in a while, we like to go into the vaults and review, classics, film series, or just classic films in general. So mostly recent stuff, but we also like to go back and do classics as well.
Speaking of classics, that the word classics, I mean, Disney themselves refers to their animated films as classics, and most of us in the 80s and 90s and even the 70s grew up on these movies, these classic Disney animated movies. Of course, in the late 80s, there was the Disney Renaissance. But lately, I've started to notice this influx of live-action Disney films. And I was looking into it earlier today, Mark, and they have 15 movies planned, including, I mean, we've already seen, a handful of these already come out, right? Maleficent came out, Cinderella came out. The thing is that when they're doing these, live-action remakes, it's not that they're doing a readaptation of the source material. It's not like they're doing the Alice in Wonderland book into a movie. It's an adaptation of an adaptation. They're adapting the Disney animated adaptation into a live-action adaptation. And now the Disney animated movies, based on, for example, the Jungle Book, the Rudyard Kipling book, obviously changes things. In the Rudyard Kipling book, things were very, very different than how they were in the, bare necessities and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That begs the question, should Disney do as close as possible to the Disney animated classic, or should they divert from it with Maleficent? Because I feel or do you think it's a case by case thing? Because I feel with Maleficent, they tried to tell the Sleeping Beauty story, and I'm not a hardcore Sleeping Beauty fan by any means. I'm not, but Maleficent is one of Disney's classic villainous characters, and what they try to do, they try to give her a lot of sympathy, and they essentially took the entire premise, the entire story of Sleeping Beauty, and they essentially twisted it and fucked it all up and made it into this new story, which I guess they kind of had to do, but I feel like they somewhat pissed on the original story and just mischaracterized everything, like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. It was just totally mischaracterized.
Right.
But, so that's a bad example. But should they follow the original animated film as closely as they can, or should they make changes to differentiate the two movies?
I feel personally that in order for these remakes to be even feasible, and I'm talking about that from an artistic standpoint, because, whatever franchise or whatever property Disney attaches their name to is going to make money. So I'm not talking about from a money standpoint, from a budget standpoint. I'm talking about just from an artistic standpoint. For it to even be really feasible, for it to even make sense or to even have a point, you kind of have to divert from the original story to give it kind of its own identity, its own flavor. Of course, it's an adaptation of an adaptation, like we've already said. But in order for it to kind of also, you kind of also want it to stand on its own and not kind of rely entirely on the legacy of the animated film. So I feel that in order for it to accomplish that, you really have to change it up to a point, not so much where it compromises the story and ruins the story, but you got to add, give it its own flavor, give it its own identity to kind of make it stand out.
How do you feel about Hollywood's, it's been going on now for 6-7 years, Hollywood's constant, remaking and rebooting of franchises now? Because to me, I honestly feel like I'm getting a little sick of it, to be honest with you. Everything from the 80s is now coming back, and even some stuff from the 90s. And I'm getting a little bit sick of it, but I personally feel like what Disney's doing is a little bit worse because it's essentially a reimagining of an existing film.
That
And
they themselves made, which is the funny thing.
exactly. And not just that, but for example, some of the upcoming ones include Pete's Dragon. Pete's Dragon is already a halfway live action movie. Like, I don't understand what they could do except make Pete's Dragon more of a dragon. This is more like an actual remake. And I don't remember. I mean, Pete's Dragon is a fun movie, but I don't really see the demand for another Pete's Dragon story. Like, I just feel like, I feel like there's other stories that could be told, and I feel like these live action remakes are just kind of like Disney wants to put shit out without really even thinking that hardly about what they want to put out. I don't know. It's like they're spamming the marketplace, it seems like. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it seems like, at the end of the day, Disney, just like any other Hollywood studio, is all about the bottom line. So any potential property that they could whore out, that they could squeeze any sort of money out of, they're gonna milk. Yes, they're gonna rehash and rehash and rehash. There'll probably be another like live action Jungle Book remake in like 2030 for all we know, because that's what these studios do. It's all about the bottom line for them. Creatively, artistically, is it very lazy? Yes, of course it's very lazy, but when it comes to these Hollywood studios, it's all about the bottom line. If they can make money off of something, they're gonna rehash it, re-release it as many times as their heart's desire because they all care about the bottom line.
It's getting weird too because Tim Burton's involved. He's doing Dumbo, but he's also signed on to do a reimagining of Alice in Wonderland, which he already did. It's so weird.
It's gonna be great, by the way. I'm already calling it. This is gonna be I don't know about great, but it's gonna be interesting.
It's a clustermuck because he's doing a reimagining of a film that he already reimagined on his own a few years ago. But he's doing Alice Through the Looking Glass. He's doing it's a sequel. It's a direct sequel to the. Okay, from what I understand, it's a sequel to the reboot to the adaptation.
Correct. Okay, so you have the original Alice in Wonderland, yes. Then you have the 2010 Alice in Wonderland, which is technically a sequel to that animated film, and now this movie coming out is a sequel to that 2010 film, which is itself is a sequel to the original animated film.
So, okay, so it's going to be a sequel to both the live action and the original?
It's more of a direct sequel to the live action, but the live action is supposed to be a sequel to the animated film.
What a piece of shit. What a clustermuck. Now, we did...
No, but here's the thing, though. I mean, not to cut you off, but here's the other thing, too. I am really looking forward to seeing Tim Burton incorporate twisty trees into Dumbo. So that's going to be... That's going to be interesting.
And hopefully the racism, too, with the Jim Crows and everything. Exactly. I hope we do see that. Now, obviously, this is not the first time Disney's done anything like this before. In the 90s, we had those absolutely horrible and embarrassing 101 Dalmatians movies that were just with Glenn Close.
Yes,
that were
correct.
essentially her taking bumps for 2 hours. And now we're hearing there's going to be a Cruella movie, which is going to be the same thing. But the thing is, I worry because Cruella, look at these characters, okay? Cruella de Vil, which basically means cruel bitch, the devil. Yes. And then we have Maleficent, which is like a pun on, maliciousness. These are bad people. And yet now Disney wants to take Cruella and they're probably going to turn her babyface. They're probably going to have Cruella, the movie, make her into this likable character who wants to kill dogs. Like, is Michael Vick going to make a cameo? Like, what is going on here? Like, it's getting ridiculous. Like, I was okay.
A little bit, yeah.
Dude, honestly, I was fine with okay, the Cinderella movie's okay, this and that. But now it's almost like they're digging deep. There's going to be a live action Winnie the Pooh, which they could do because we've seen Ted before. And I don't know. It's just I feel like some of these movies.
With these
I
types
have
of
no
stories,
interest. I'm sorry, but I have no interest in some of these movies. None.
With these types of stories. And here's the thing that I think that they're forgetting.
And for the record, I love the originals.
Oh, absolutely. So do I. But the thing I think that they're forgetting is that with these types of movies, there really is no shades of gray. You have the good guys and you have the villains. You have the bad guys. What they're trying to do with these movies, I think, is trying to find shades of gray for these characters when there really shouldn't be. They're supposed to be, unlike. They're supposed to be despised because they're the villains. But yet they're trying to kind of, I don't know if humanize is the right word, but they're trying to find a sort of like middle ground and shades of gray for you kind of rooting for them, but still knowing that they're bad. But exactly that for these types of stories, it doesn't work because they've already pre-established in other media that they're to be hated, to be despised, and now you're trying to give them sympathy.
Yeah, they're classic villains. Now, a couple more movies coming up that I really think is a joke. Okay, Reese Witherspoon's supposed to be starring Tinkerbell in the upcoming movie Tink, which is not
Right.
supposed to be a Peter Pan adaptation. It's supposed to be like a sequel or a side story. I'm sorry, but the only fucking live action Peter Pan that means a dick in my eyes is Hook, and that's
Hook,
it.
yes, you're absolutely right on that one.
And that's it. Yeah, I don't know. Reese Witherspoon, like I didn't even know she still had a career, bro. But I mean, that's good that she's getting work, I suppose. But Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell was kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a big fan of Julia Roberts, but she was pretty hot as Tinkerbell and Hook.
Well, that whole movie was great. I mean, not just, I mean, she was a big part of it too, but that whole movie was awesome. Robin Williams, God rest his soul. Dustin Hoffman. I mean, come on, like that's perfect casting.
Yes, and then the other one that we're hearing about too is the Little Mermaid live action film. I mean, is there a woman that could possibly be a real life woman on Earth that's hot enough to play Ariel, bro? Because Ariel was like a dime piece, bro.
I don't know, man.
Ariel was a 10 out of 10, dude.
I mean, if I were to, like, just off the top of my head, if I were to probably see anybody in that role, it's probably like the girl who plays Supergirl right now on the TV show. She could probably fit that role, but I don't know. Other than that, I can't really see anybody.
Is she hot enough though?
To me, she might be. I don't know about to you.
No, leave a comment. Leave a comment down below, folks, and let us know who you think should play Ariel in Little Mermaid. I wanna know. You know, we'll let the audience figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
here, let's wrap it up here. Out of all these movies, which ones are you actually looking forward to? Because I'll be perfectly honest with you. After Robin Williams passed away, I don't really care about a Genie's prequel. Doesn't really interest me. I'll be honest with you.
Without Robin Williams, they shouldn't even be making that movie. That's my opinion.
Exactly. I don't even look forward. And again, I'm not hating. I love the original animated classics. I think that of all the stuff Disney puts out, the Pixar division, Marvel division, I think that this is their weakest division right now. And I think that it's literally these movies are pointless. And I honestly, truthfully feel that way. They're pointless.
I mean, we're not really getting anything that original from them at this point. I mean, you have Zootopia that just came out that's seen some success. But other than that, I mean, I can't really think of any other film that they've released. I mean, people like Frozen. You know, Frozen to an extent is overrated. I mean, well, that's another discussion for another day.
Touchy subject to some people, but okay.
But then other than that, you have these live action remakes that are on their slate, and it's like, you know, where's the creativity? I mean, are they going to just leave everything to Pixar now as far as, like, you know, bringing out new original stories? Which is, I mean, it's becoming a joke now with Pixar because now they're making sequels of their other stuff. Now, Toy Story 4, Incredibles 2.
Well, yeah,
Finding
but
Dory,
Pixar,
so.
but Pixar's still putting out good movies, though.
Exactly, that's different.
I'm okay with sequels. I'm not okay with remakes of movies from 30 years ago where they're worth exactly the same, but it's live action. Like, I don't. And here's the problem: is that I'm conflicted because if they're exactly the same, we're trading the same bullshit. But if they're different, it's like you're changing the integrity of the story. Like, if they wanted to do a sequel to Sleeping Beauty, I would have been fine with it, except you really can't, right? But having Maleficent be the sympathetic, like, character who was bullied and all that shit, like, that ruins it for me. So I think if they're going to do sequels to classic movies, that's fine. But I just think that them doing remakes where they change the original characters like that much, I think is horrible. Plus, that movie sucked. That movie had a real identity crisis. Maleficent was a very confusing movie because you're watching it and you're literally confused about whether or not you're supposed to like Maleficent. And you're going into it, she does evil things, she does cruel things, but yet we're supposed to love her. Fuck that movie, yo. Like, I just want to say this. I think it's a case-by-case thing, but me personally, I'm not a fan of these live-action remakes.
Neither am I. But, I mean, there are a couple I'm looking forward to. I mean, Beauty and the Beast, which is slated to come out, I think, next year. I do like the casting of Emma Watson as Belle, so I'm very interested to see how that's going to turn out. I'm also interested in Dumbo for the reasons I've already said, because Tim Burton is like a whack job. So I'm interested to see his interpretation of Dumbo with the twisty trees.
It's going to be weird.
And hopefully the racist crow still.
Danny Elfman doing the music.
Exactly.
Who's Johnny Depp going to play in that movie? The crow?
Exactly. One of the crows, probably.
No, the stork. He's going to be the stork. Johnny Depp's the stork in that movie. Watch.
But, I mean, other than that, I mean, I think at the point, like, okay, so you can accept, okay, the Jungle Book they're going to do Dumbo, they're going to do Beauty and the Beast, right? But as soon as I read that they're going to do Winnie the Pooh as a live action remake, I'm like,
Sword in the Stone is one that I'm okay with too, by the way.
Yeah, that one I don't mind either because that one doesn't get enough love like the animated film. But when you hear Winnie the Pooh is getting a live action remake, like, is it gonna be like costumed people, or is it gonna be like real bears and real tigers?
That sounds horrible if they use real bears, bro. Well, they're doing it for Jungle Book, so.
Yeah, but I mean, that Winnie the Pooh's not about that though. So that's why if they do it like that, it's gonna be like really weird, really interesting. I think at that point when I read Winnie the Pooh is coming out, I'm like, oh god, now it's gotten stupid.
Not to mention they're also paying some big name actors to do these things too.
Right. Oh,
huge to do voice.
Christopher Walken, bro. The Alpha is going to be in a Jungle Book. Yeah. Idris Elba, Ben Kingsley, Bill Murray, like that.
Scarlett Johansson.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's enough, right? That's all alphas.
Yeah, A-listers here doing voices. I mean, I don't know. Disney's wacky. Well, let us know your thoughts down below, guys. What do you think about these live-action Disney movies? Are there any you're looking forward to seeing? Are there any that you think are a waste of time? I think the majority are a waste of time, but it all depends. I'm going to go into it with an open mind, but I do think that they're kind of pointless movies. I think that Disney should focus more on doing more Pixar, Zootopia type stuff. And of course, they're going to be banking off of Marvel and Star Wars anyways, but I just feel like these movies are a waste. Where can we find you, Sports Guy? Mark.
So I am on Twitter. I have two different handles. One for my personal Twitter. It's at Sportsguy515. And then you can follow my show, Force Perspective, at FP Movie Podcast. So you can go ahead and follow me and the show on Twitter.
Check that out, folks, and thank you again for being on. Let us know your thoughts down below, and we'll catch you down the road.